In this short, or dare I say, compressed tutorial about EQ, I will equip you to know all about using compression in your audio tracks. I'll be using Adobe Audition for this example, but these same concepts apply to pretty much any audio editing application and even some video editing apps like Final Cut Pro, DaVinci Resolve, and Adobe Premiere. I have an example audio track right here, and this is what it sounds like. This is a sound sample so that you can hear the effect that compression has on an audio recording. That and the audio you're listening to right now were recorded with the Rode NT USB Plus, which is just a USB microphone running into my computer. I chose this one because it has a very natural, flat audio profile, so it's pretty neutral, and that way I think you'll be able to hear the effects of the compression a bit more easily. Now, as we look at this waveform right here, we notice there are a lot of highs and lows, much like the journey of life. There are peaks and valleys. What compression does is get rid of some of these low lows and high highs to create a signal that is a little easier to listen to for the average person. Essentially what that means is your listener isn't going to have to keep turning their volume up or down to adjust the signal. It should be pretty standard, and once they have the level set that's comfortable for them, the signal's just going to sound good. So here's how you add compression. In Audition, I'm going to click on the effects rack here and then go right here to add amplitude and compression. Some applications have single band and multi-band compressors. We're going to keep things very simple by going with just a single band compressor. Finding the perfect settings is definitely going to take some experimentation, but the threshold is essentially where it's going to start adding compression. Since the place to start with a podcast is -16 decibels. That's usually a good place to start here as well. I'm just going to type that in to make things easier. And then our ratio is essentially how much compression is going to be applied. A good place to start is with a 3:1 ratio. And what this ratio means is that anything going above this threshold is then going to have compression applied to it. Now here is our uncompressed audio. This is a sound sample so that you can hear the effect that compression has on an audio recording. And here is with our basic compression applied. This is a sound sample so that you can hear the effect that compression has on an audio recording. And now I'm going to turn it off and play through this and try to turn it on halfway through to see if you can hear a difference. This is a sound sample so that you can hear the effect that compression has on an audio recording. And now in this view in Audition, we can kind of see the effect that that has had. So up top here, this is our original waveform, and down here is our compressed waveform. This looks a lot more even. There are fewer gaps between these highs and these lows because it is more compressed. Now, one thing you'll notice though is it also looks a little bit quieter. So in this specific case, I usually don't touch the attack and the release. They're pretty good by default. But because the compression did make our signal a little quieter, I then usually do add some output gain to kind of recover that a little bit. This is going to be a season to taste situation. So whatever kind of works for you, you don't want to start peaking and clipping over here. So maybe in this case, something like 3 decibels is probably going to be about enough to that way have our levels be where we want them to be, but we don't have any of those crazy dynamics happening. Not that dynamics are bad, but in spoken word, something like a long form podcast, you probably want to keep things pretty even and pretty level, at least most of the time. And so now for one last time, we can play this back without compression. This is a sound sample so that you can hear the effect that compression has on an audio recording. And now we can go back and add our compression. This is a sound sample so that you can hear the effect that compression has on an audio recording. And again, we can try to turn it on in the middle. This is a sound sample so that you can hear the effect that compression has on an audio recording. As with most EQ, I think a light touch is best, and sometimes you might find that you don't even think you need a compressor, but at least now you know how to use this tool, so it's one more trick you can use to help your podcast sound its absolute best. Thank you so much to everyone who helped support my channel through Patreon and YouTube channel memberships. And if you like this video, check out the Podcaster Playbook, my DIY podcast production course where I walk you through the entire podcast process from start to finish.